For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Yeah! Thank you. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. It's great to be back with you oddballs from around the world watching us online at 30oddminutes.com. Joining me, of course, as always, the oddballs in the oddball pit. Say hello.
Hey.
Hello. How are you guys tonight?
Doing great.
Excellent.
Well, we're in the mothership. We're high above the earth, and what better place to talk about strange things that have to do with ET and distant galaxies and life beyond us and all that kind of fun stuff. Last week we asked you for the we asked a question of the week on Twitter and Facebook, and this is what you said. Sarah, take it away.
Got it. Hey Oddlings, last week we announced we were going to do a new segment called Question of the Week, and we posted the question, which is why in popular culture are ghosts often portrayed as figures in white sheets? And you posted on Twitter and Facebook some pretty good stuff, so here's what you came up with. First up, we had Jim Meanagan, who says, in a word, shrouds.
Shrouds. Like Turin?
Gamal Rassan, because naked ghosts would be inappropriate.
But hot. Oh, depends on the ghost.
At Tink277, who's also Kim Pyatt, she says that's the best way the first person who saw a ghost could describe it. They just didn't know what an apparition was.
But they knew what a sheep was.
And Tim Weisberg, who says not always white. Dead bedwetters actually show up in yellow sheets. We also would have accepted plastic sheets. Oh. And we have Callie Sherrill. I think it's because in our human form, that's how we think of spirits. We still think of them as human, just beyond a veil that we have trouble seeing through. The sheet symbolizes the veil that is covering the person who is just beyond what we can actually see.
Callie's way too smart for this show.
And our favorites. Wait for it. At Julia Ann Lamb, Julia Lambert. White sheets are easier to find and cheaper to buy in department stores. No Martha Stewart stuff.
Yeah.
So good job, guys. We loved it. So keep it coming. Next week we'll have another question for you, and we hope that you'll try to get your stuff on so we can show you off. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You'll get the question of the week. You can jump in. And also check this out. During the show, right below us, we're actually going to be posting some of your tweets. If you tweet at 30-odd minutes during the show, and you behave, because we screen all these things, we'll pop your comments up during the show. You can be a part of it. We love that. Live, interactive, all of that fun stuff. Oddballs, you feeling good on the couch? Everything good this week?
Feeling good.
Everything
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
New, exciting? Cars are no longer broken?
No, got it fixed. Computer chip.
Had a good ghost hunt on Friday.
Oh,
What
yeah.
happened?
I'll let Andy tell it.
Yep, taking random pictures in infrared, and we think we got a ghost walking by the kitchen door.
Yep.
Very cool. We will show that next
great.
week. I actually saw it. It is pretty cool. And Sarah, we did get a couple emails and comments this week worth sharing.
Yes, we did.
Do tell.
So for an email, we got notified from ACC TV in Carson City, Nevada, that they are going to be a new carrier for our show. So that's exciting. Yay!
Carson
Welcome.
City, Nevada, welcome to you all.
Yeah, so that's good. And then we have a pretty cool comment. I just want to pull up from Facebook from Scott Dakota, which he has a cool name all by himself. New fan. He says, the show is brand new to me. I just noticed it via a post of a Facebook friend, and I watched episode 70 just now. Love it. Thanks. And we love having you. So welcome to the fold, little oddling.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you, guys. We don't care how you find out about us. It's kind of like joining a cult. Any way in, right? Just eventually give us all your worldly possessions, your very soul, and we appreciate it. Thanks
Your
so
beer.
much.
Firstborn child.
Yeah, we don't ask much. So I'm very excited about tonight's show. It's an awesome topic. We've covered UFOs before, and it's a topic we love. We are strange people, and it begs a bigger question, of course: is there life in the universe? So tonight's show: do you believe extraterrestrials have been here before? Do you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They never left.
Well, for the net. Not just within the last few decades, but I mean centuries or even millennia ago. Did our ancient ancestors leave us clues in their cave drawings, in their artwork, in their religious texts, in their painting, maybe even in their music? Have extraterrestrials influenced our culture, our technology, maybe even our very DNA? We're going to explore all of that tonight and a lot more with our guest. Very excited, very excited. He's one of the most respected UFO investigators in the world, and he's ours tonight. He has more than 30 years' experience as a researcher, an investigator, a writer, a lecturer, and an activist. He's a regular guest on radio shows around the country. He's appeared on or been a consultant to numerous television shows and documentaries, which is good. Nice work if you can get it. And he's also the co-author of the British bestseller, Left at Eastgate.
Great book.
Yeah, great book. A first-hand account of the Rendlesham Forest UFO Incident, its cover-up and investigation. You've seen him on the History Channel, on National Geographic, the Sci Fi Channel, Lifetime, and the O'Reilly Factor. Making his triumphant return to 30-odd minutes, please welcome all the way from upstate New York, live, Peter Robbins.
Yeah, Pete.
Hey! How are you, Peter?
I'm fine. Good evening, Jeff, and good evening, oddballs.
Hey.
Thank you so much for coming back with us and slumming it again. You clearly don't learn your lesson the first time, so we question your judgment right out of the gate.
Me too.
So first, I have to ask you, you were on the O'Reilly Factor. We do need to know, are there conservative and liberal aliens too?
Apparently so, yeah. About 9 years ago, I received a call from Mr. O'Reilly's producer saying that they wanted to have me on the show to discuss the Rendlesham Forest UFO Incident. And although I don't think Mr. O'Reilly's ever been public about this, I was assured by the producer that he has not just a serious interest in the UFO cover-up, but takes it very seriously and off the record within the Beltway over a few drinks has been told in no uncertain terms by elected officials whose names we all know that it's absolutely real. Apparently, an article that appeared in the New York Times that day triggered his interest, and I ended up doing the show live from London a few weeks later. And at the last minute, I think, I was not speaking to Mr. O'Reilly. I was speaking to one of his henchmen who was very polite, asked me good questions, and I responded, and it all was very civil.
Excellent. Well, very good. See, I mean, this topic, and really all of these fringe topics, if you will, I think they bring us together. They really do. Even people who want to be divisive about it, who get offended, there's unity among them as well, right? It's a topic that speaks to a very primal part of all of us. And so we talked, last time you were on, we talked extensively about the Rendlesham Forest UFO Incident. And I think when a lot of us think of UFO incidences, we think of Roswell, Rendlesham. We think of these modern-day sightings that make it on YouTube and things like that. Tonight, we want to go back, way, way back, if we could. Earth seems like a nice place to me. You know, I've got friends here, a lot of good things to do and all that fun stuff. But why do you think extraterrestrials? This is our first guy smoking on the show.
Yeah, that's cool.
Actually, no, it isn't.
First guest to smoke.
No.
I want to
Guy
say
from
to all
California.
your younger, impressionable viewers who are now going to go out and buy their first packs of cigarettes, this is an electronic cigarette. I no longer smoke, but if you got the big bucks, you get one of these babies and you can feel like you're smoking, but at no cost to your lungs.
All right. Well,
Why do I think that they're visiting here? This is purely speculative. They never told me. Nobody tells me anything. This is only my own opinion. But it does seem naive to think that if there is intelligent life out there, being that there is questionable intelligent life here,
Thank you very
they
much.
didn't just start coming in 1947, and that, in fact, they may have been coming since time immemorial for reasons we can make educated guesses about. We may be somewhere between here and there. We may be a much more precious and rare commodity in the universe than we imagine. Perhaps our water, our minerals. Perhaps we're somebody's graduate experiment gone horribly wrong.
Or horribly right.
All open,
or horribly right in our
all
case.
open for, yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it. But I am one of those people who do feel that we are not alone in the universe, of course, and that we have been visited for millennia, and that it may be some kind of experiment. Perhaps we are indeed them a million years in the past from their point of view, or an experiment in trying to increase our potential, or in rein us in as we destroy this very precious little object that we go cruising around the universe on. We are, in a sense, vermin. We are the thing infecting this beautiful planet and destroying it.
Okay, so the question is begged, of course. If they have been here for a long time, wouldn't they have left signs? Wouldn't we know about it? Wouldn't it have been passed along? And maybe they did. You've sent us some images. Let's take a look at this first one here. This is from from Italy, right? And this is a pretty famous cave painting. Tell us what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, this is indeed. Well, this is actually. Let me just check my list here. I believe this is actually European cave art going back 20,000 years. And we see two human figures. They could be ancient. On another level, they look rather modern. And there is this something surrounding their head. It is within a circle. There are lines coming off of it. Some speculate that this is proof that they've been here, because it looks like, for some of us, our picture of beings in space helmets. For me, it means absolutely nothing. This could be their depiction in their culture of energy radiating off the head. Perhaps it's a piece of wood that was part of a ceremonial headdress that was worn. It's interesting, but in itself, it absolutely registers of no real value.
Okay, but other stuff comes up. We've got other cave drawings, right? Here's another one. Take a look at this. And talk about this one.
This is Aboriginal. It is also over 20,000 years old. It is in Australia. And once again, we see these heads with large, dark, imposing eyes. And if one looked at it from a Judeo-Christian perspective, it's almost like the aura surrounding holy beings, in medieval paintings. But again, it's purely interesting, but it's so open to interpretation that if you are a believer in this, you may try to use it as a support. I think it's really just a footnote and intriguing, but nothing more.
But what is interesting is that you've got a situation where you've got thousands and thousands of miles, half a planet really, between Europe and Australia, roughly the same time period, still depicting a human-type figure with something large around the head. So these are cultures that wouldn't have really had contact with each other way back then, as far as we know, to our best of our knowledge, and yet it comes up twice on two different continents or islands, depending on how you feel about Australia.
One can also argue that the pyramids made by the South American cultures and the Egyptians prove that there was some commonality. The pyramid and the circle are fairly basic symbols,
sure,
like the cross, that could have been evolved in different cultures as having separate meanings.
Sure, and of course a pyramid is just a very sound structure, let's face it.
Sure
I mean, if you're going to experiment with building, chances are you're going to come up with a pyramid. So let's talk about one of the summer ship images here. Now this is where you start to see, this is a familiar image if you've looked at anything from ancient Egypt,
yes,
and this looks like it could actually be, what region are we looking at? We're looking at the flying craft.
This is a drawing based on a depiction from ancient Sumeria. We're looking at an image that is, in effect, 5,500 to 6,000 years old. And what we're seeing in the sky is really intriguing. It's not a bird. Yes, it's not a plane. It's not Superman. But it does have a certain mechanical look to it. It has a basic aerodynamic. Those things do register as wings, possibly landing apparatus. This is intriguing. But is it part of an ancient mythology, or indeed some ancient trying to depict a machine of undetermined origin that could fly? I don't know.
Right, but it comes up again. We have another image. Check this out, another summer ship.
Yeah, and this one is even more detailed. Obviously, it was a very high intention to capture this image for the culture. And again, it looks to me like a period kind of aircraft coming at you. Some of the first planes after the biplane era, from the late 20s, the early 30s. Again, that's purely my interpretation, and I would not draw anything conclusive from it, but it is more intriguing to me than those early cave paintings.
Right, because now we have a clear flying craft, and again, cultures that aren't necessarily in touch with each other, similar looking, the square rectangular wings. It's really interesting stuff. Peter, earlier today we asked folks if they had questions for you to send them in, and they did. Andrew, on the couch, please do tell.
Yeah, Julie Monroe asked, do you think that with the growing exposure of the American public to the concept of ancient aliens shaping our history, that aliens will replace or become an alternative to religion?
That's a great question. Will aliens be an alternative to religion, given how prominent this idea is becoming today?
It's a great question, Andrew, and thank you for the person that sent it. For many people, the whole extraterrestrial reality or interdimensional or otherworldly presence is already the equivalent functionally of a religion. They believe, because they have faith, that we are being visited. And in many cases, it is underscored by a hope that they are good and that they are not here in the spirit of the classic Twilight Zone episode to serve man, but that they are here to help us cure cancer, control our population, love each other, and live in harmony together. In that sense, again, it is religious for some people and a substitute for, more traditional religions.
And think about it. Someone with technology that advanced would certainly be revered as gods. And before we're going to get back to that point in just 1 second, but I want to bring up this picture of the Ezekiel ship, if we could. We're going to leave this up for a minute. I apologize for all the reading. I want to read a passage from the Bible, Ezekiel 1:4. As I looked, behold, a storm wind was coming forth from the north, a great cloud with fire flashing forth continually, and a bright light around it. And in its midst, something like glowing metal in the midst of the fire. Within it there were figures resembling 4 living beings, and this was their appearance. They had human form. Each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like a calf's hoof, and they gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, were human hands. As for the faces of wings and wings of the 4 of them, their wings touched one another. Their faces did not turn when they moved. Each went straight forward. As from the form of their faces, each had the face of a man. All 4 had the face of a lion on the right, and the face of a bull on the left, and all 4 had the face of an eagle. Such were the faces. Their wings were spread out above. Each had 2 touching another being, and 2 covering their bodies, and each went straight forward. Wherever the wing was about to go, they would go, without turning as they went. In the midst of the living beings, there was something that looked like burning coals of fire, like torches darting back and forth among the living beings. The fire was bright, and the lightning was flashing from the fire, and the living beings ran to and fro like bolts of lightning. Really interesting. I mean, that doesn't sound really religious at all. I mean, it doesn't sound spiritual. It sounds quite technical, and that's right out of the Bible.
It does, and I'm glad you chose Ezekiel because for me it is one of the most compelling parts of the Old Testament that suggests to some of us, with all due respect to our religiously inclined brothers and sisters, that this may have been a absolutely understandable misinterpretation of an appearance by other intelligences in ceremonial garb, a suit that had a helmet on it with depictions of animals to basically really penetrate into the mythology of the time rather than what might have been the standard issue NASA helmet of the time. Also, the craft that you showed the illustration of, that was done by a man named Joseph Blumrich, who was a longtime employee of NASA and who many years ago was challenged by a friend of his to read Ezekiel with the thought that we have in mind. Blumrich rejected it. He had worked on the lunar lander. This was all nonsense. But as he read it, what he interpreted was a description of something very close to what he was helping to develop for NASA. And he ended up writing a very interesting book called The Spaceships of Ezekiel, that being the key illustration from the book. I've read about 7 or 8 translations of the Old Testament specifically to see how they treat Ezekiel. And with very small parameters, the wheel within a wheel, the appearance of burnished beryllium, that the craft, that the thing itself was metal, and that they were encased in something metallic. The angels, as they're called in some translations, Zechariah Sitchin has established for us, as a legitimate Sumerian scholar, that original word in Sumerian...
We're not here.
Angels, was truly a word that meant in its original form a go-between, an emissary. It was not about theology. It was not about anything that had to do with religion. So we are stuck with these sort of facts that Ezekiel, for me, jumps out as something that is quite different than just about any other, one can talk about Jacob's ladder. Where the heck did that come from and what was it going toward? And a handful of other biblical passages. This, for me, is the one to use as the best example, again, with all due respect.
Sure, understood. Sarah, what do you think? Do you think UFOs in the Bible, does that sound something holy or something extraterrestrial?
I think that sounds like the best explanation you could come up with, really, to make it something spiritual or holy. But yeah, I think it was
Matt?
extraterrestrial.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. UFO?
I think they're trying to describe something technical using terms that they had available to themselves, yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, every time I hear this, I remember being taught a old a slave song in elementary school, and us asking the music teacher, what are they talking about? What's this wheel within a wheel? And the music teacher going, some people believe it was a flying saucer. And all of us in 5th grade going, wow, really? So I've always felt that that's probably what the interpretation was all about.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's what's very interesting. People may say, like, well, we're not giving folks enough credit. Come on, you see something, you describe it. But there's actually a model for this in our very modern times. I remember taking an anthropology class in college and reading about when some of the first Australian settlers went to Papua New Guinea and they encountered tribes that had no contact with the outside world whatsoever. These explorers came down in mighty silver birds. Airplanes, right? Airplanes. And they landed, and they came out, and they had something they called boomsticks. They could point this boomstick at a pig several yards away. It would make a loud noise, and the pig would die. It's a rifle. It's they could point this thing. They were revered as gods, and so, I mean, think about it. If you just go back a few thousand years, tens of thousands of years, of course, someone with technology that advanced to come down from the sky to land among us would be revered. And of course, they'd make it into the religious texts. In fact, it's called cargo cults now, right? I mean, they still exist.
Well, the case that you're talking about is to be one of the most compelling in anthropology. But during World War II in the Pacific, for the first time, because of Japanese and American air traffic, air lanes were changed so that aircraft were passing over islands where they had never had an overflight of a plane. And in many cases, documented on both sides, when the Japanese or the Americans finally arrived at that island, they were greeted as gods, taken to the village, and in the middle of the village, made out of wood and straw and indigenous materials, was a rudimentary aircraft that was being worshipped. Just take that back a few millennia, and that may be an absolute parallel for what we're dealing with. I think it's a great example to underscore what we're talking about.
Right. No, it comes up again and again. Okay, earlier today, we also got other questions on Facebook, on Twitter. People just want to ask you questions, Peter Robbins. Matt, please do tell.
Yeah, I got one from Judy Marussia. If ancient aliens came down and showed themselves to large groups of early civilizations, are there any theories as to why those en masse visitations ceased and, based on accounts, only select individuals?
Yeah, why would those big sightings end, so long ago? Where are they today?
I don't know. These are areas where I have colleagues who will tell you an answer. I can only make better guesses than a lot of people, but I don't know. I
Right.
really don't.
Well, actually, I mean, that's not totally fair. You could say a little place called Rendlesham Forest. There was several witnesses there,
Yeah.
all important people, right? Government employees.
Phoenix Lights?
Yeah, I mean, so it does happen. It does happen, of course.
Well, it happens repeatedly, and it happens all over the world. And one could, the argument is the old take me to your leader argument. Why don't they land on the White House lawn or in the Kremlin and go right to chiefs of state? Well, look at the state of the world and what we in humanity have basically done via our government. Would you want to interface with a world leader or make a small difference with a local indigenous human being who would then communicate this within their circle of friends and slowly build up a critical mass of individuals who knew in their own experience over 50 or 100 years that this was real, until there were enough people networking, taking it seriously around the world, involved in educating others, doing seminars, running conferences, where the world at large might then be in a better place because of these kind of pioneers to take the subject more seriously. Remember, of course, that we, especially here in the West, have had it drummed into our heads since the summer of 1947 that this is nonsense. It can't be, therefore it isn't, therefore it's something else.
Right. Okay, let's get up to a little more modern times, slightly. We've got some other images. We've got a Saxon and a flaming shield. And this is interesting because an image similar, that capsule-looking thing above his head, is going to come up again and again. We want to get through a few of these quickly. This is what, circa 776 AD?
That's correct. And for me, it is a knockout. What we see here at a time when there were many, many depictions, fairly rudimentary in form, of the Trinity or Jesus or Mary or an angel in the sky, this is none of the above. It seems to me, superimposing, my way of seeing things, more like a satellite or a piece of machinery moving through the sky that somebody felt compelled enough to either write down, or then one can argue counter, well, they just made it up and it's just something somebody did as a doodle. These were not, I don't know, I do not accept that. I think that this is a very important depiction and again, underscores what we're talking about.
And centuries later, look at this next picture. This is the detail of a fresco from the 14th century. I mean, very similar to the last one, just with more detail. You've got this capsule with a person in it flying it, for God's sakes. I mean, it's an evolved image.
It surely is. And this was on the wall of a monastery in what's now, or was, the Yugoslav state. It's from the late 1300s, and it is one of two, flanking a depiction of the crucifixion.
Right.
It does look like a very simple craft with a being in it. At least that's the way we moderns would read it. And I think it also lends support to this argument.
So, Peter Robbins, are you saying that aliens crucified Jesus?
Crickets.
Oh, boy. I knew it was going to come down to this sooner or later.
No, I'm kidding. Gosh. Goodness gracious. I rattled him. All right, good. That's for the phone ringing.
Just as I thought it was safe to go back in the water.
The cigarette. All right, let's get to one more image. Number 9. This is one that you were excited about. Talk to us about this. We have about a minute left.
Yeah. This is a depiction of a mass sighting that was recorded over Basel, Switzerland. Similar depictions were issued as printed broadsides in Germany. This is 1559. And it was seen as so important to these local people that, so to say, it made the equivalent of the front pages of the papers. People came out. It was a mass of unknowns in the sky over one of the larger, more sophisticated cities in Europe at the time.
So over a long period of time, from 20,000 years ago with cave paintings to just a few centuries ago with our medieval artwork and things like that, again and again we see these things that are out of place that are, like you said, the interpretation. It's still happening today. We just have different medium. We have YouTube. We have things like that. Sarah, Matt, Andrew, closing thoughts. What do you think? Have they been here before? Have they been here all along?
Absolutely. They never left. And they're cats.
Yeah.
Cats.
They are.
Wow.
No, they're mice.
We just took a left turn there.
Pan-dimensional beings.
We were so close.
No, they definitely. I like what Matt said. They never left.
Peter Robbins, do you think we are they are us?
No.
I appreciate when you're succinct. And I wonder why you're not on Twitter. You don't need 140 characters. You need 2. Good Lord. Peter, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. You were an awesome guest. We always love having you.
Well, now I'm willing to come back again. Just make sure that you send my check to the same address that you had the last time.
Right. Just, it's post-dated millennia. Because
I'll be waiting for it. Yeah.
Of course you will. All right, excellent stuff. Folks, we appreciate you all. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Email us. Tell us what you think. And until next time, stay odd.
Yeah!
All right.